What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Shalisa if you're new here, and if you all watched my video from last week, you know that I dropped a few hints about our housing situation, and so I wanted to kind of come back and follow up on that and just share with you all where we are with our housing situation, how we got here, so that if anyone is moving here, especially if you're moving here as a military family, you will have some clarity of what the process is. Now, if you're not coming to Italy as a military family, this is still some good helpful information because I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the houses that are out here in Italy, so you're not going to want to miss like what you can expect coming out here. So I've shared this time and time again, I've said it time and time again, we are in Naples, Italy. It makes a big difference because the situation may be different if you're moving to other parts of Italy. Moving out here as a military family, when you first move out here, you are 9 times out of 10 going to be moving to the Navy Lodge. That's where we currently are now, y'all, the Navy Lodge. And we've been here for, we've been here for about 2 months. Yeah, we've been here, we're going on 2 months in the Navy Lodge, y'all. This is kind of where everyone comes when you first get to Italy before you get your housing. One of the big things that has kind of helped us keep our sanity while staying in the Navy Lodge is the fact that this Navy Lodge is designed like an extended stay. So it has a kitchen and it has a living room. In our room we have like a queen size bed and there's bunk beds. So they designed and created this Navy Lodge for folks and families who are going to be here for a while. I would show you all what our room looks like, but our room right now is in disarray. The joys and the reality of having a toddler. I don't know about anyone else. If you are a parent, is it just me, or does it feel like every time you clean, it's just like your efforts are a waste? Because as soon as you clean, the room gets messy again. I feel like I clean every day and the room still ends up messy. Let me know. But I digress. If you're watching this because you are a family member of a military personnel and you all are coming out here as a family, then 9 times out of 10, you will be direct assigned to live on base in base housing. That is the rule of thumb. That is what everyone will tell you when you go to area orientation. That is what they will tell you, is that if you come out here as a family with dependents, you will be direct assigned to on-base housing. And that was the same case for us. At area orientation, you submit your housing application, and once they get your housing application, it takes them about a day to process it. And I literally think they just start shooting out direct assignments. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles here. Now, I'm sure you all are thinking, if that's the case, why are you still in the Navy Lodge? Why haven't you just moved into your base housing? Well, that's what I'm going to explain to you. There are some exceptions to the rules when it comes to not immediately being direct assigned to base housing. To bypass the first year on base, you can either, 1, put in the exception to policy and cross your fingers and pray that it gets approved. 2, there's 5 or less units available on base based on your spouse's rank. Or 3, are a family that has 4 or more kids and there's no houses on base that can support that family size, and therefore you need to go off base. Those are like the 3 ways to like bypass being on base the first year. Now for us, we were direct assigned. There were a plethora of units available, but the time that it took to do our exception to policy, and the fact that this is like, we got here peak PCS season, so everyone and their mama is moving and coming and going. And so when we first got here, there was a ton of units available. By the time that we put our exception to policy through to housing, there was like little to none available based on my husband's rank. And because of that, we were told that, hey, we don't have nothing for you. Go find a place to live elsewhere off base. Don't be surprised if you are highly discouraged to put in an exception to policy. I feel like even before you get here to Naples, I've seen a lot of people ask in various Facebook groups like, what's the housing situation? We really want to look off base. Automatically people are shut down like, phew, No, you can't. Like, you gotta live on base the first year. And then when you go to orientation, they'll say the same thing. I'm a big believer of ask and you shall receive. I'm a big believer of just asking the question. Even if they deny your request, it doesn't hurt to ask. You never know unless you ask. You never know unless you try. So don't be discouraged. If you have a legitimate reason on why you feel like you need an exception to policy, then ask, request it. It does not hurt. Worst case scenario, they'll tell you no, and then you live on base for a year, and then after a year, you go live off base. But I don't believe in discouraging anyone to ask the question. Now, the second part is, when you are going to ask the question, keep in mind that it's not just a go on the computer, type in your exception to policy request and hit submit. No, like there's an actual process that you have to go through, and the process is not uberly complicated, but it's not like as simple as just submitting a request. The process requires your spouse, who is active duty, to actually type up the request, give some type of supporting reasoning on why they need the exception to policy, and then they have to route it through their chain of command, and their CO has to sign off on it. So it's not complicated. We did it. It's not rocket science, but it's not a simple thing. I think it's really ultimately comes down to a personal choice on whether, do you really want to, go through the steps to ask for this exception to policy to bypass that first year? Or are you okay with living on base for that 1 year and then moving off base the second year? So, because we felt like we had justification and reason to request an exception to policy, that's what we did. After AO orientation, we were sent the email that we had been direct assigned to base housing, and we were supposed to request a walkthrough in order to view the units on base. And immediately, because we knew we wanted to request an exception to policy, we bounced back, or my husband bounced back and said, hey, we are going to be putting in an exception to policy. And once we did that, we started typing up and preparing the documents in order to request that exception to policy. My husband routed it through his chain of command, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it took about what I feel like a month in order to get the actual finalized exception to policy paperwork back from his chain of command so that we could give it to the housing office. So it took about a month. Keep that in mind. As I stated, when you first get here, you're going to be either in the Navy Lodge 9 times out of 10, unless there's no availabilities, or you'll be out at a hotel in the local economy. So you'll get a lodging allowance to cover the cost to stay in the Navy Lodge or an economy hotel. And you've got about 60 days to continue getting that lodging allowance before the well dries up and you got to start knocking on doors asking for an extension. So when I sit here and I say that it took about a month to get our exception to policy in order to push it up to the housing, that plays a big role, because again, we only have about 60 days of an allowance to be in the lodge, and just getting the finalized exception to policy took a month. These are all things that have to be considered as you prepare to make the transition to either go live out in the local economy or to do your direct assignment. Like your timing matters. I haven't even shared with you all, and I'm not going to share with you all, like what our reasoning to request an exception to policy was, because one, our reasoning is unique to us, and two, I can't even guarantee you all whether our reasoning was sufficient enough that they would have given us the approval, because again, we were approved to move off base not because of our exception to policy, but because there was no more availabilities of housing. So I don't even know if our joint was good enough or not. So I don't want to steer anyone in the wrong direction. I will just say, like, at the end of the day, if you're gonna put in an exception to policy, if you're moving out here and you feel like you need to live off base, do it based on your family. Don't do it based on what other folks have used in the past. Be honest. Think about what your family situation is, and if you feel like you need an exception to policy, you put it in. If you don't, or if you don't care, go live on base. So we're still technically in the Navy Lodge, but we have been house hunting, and we found a apartment that we will be moving to. I don't know when, y'all. I don't know when, but that is where we are now. And so I kind of wanted to also talk to you about the house hunting process. So once we were given the waiver basically stating like, hey, we don't have enough units available on base, and for us, we qualified for a 3-bedroom unit on base. Just to put that in perspective, we were given our waiver and immediately we started reaching out to real estate agents. There's a list of real estate agents that the base requires us to work with, so you can't just go on Google Schmoogle and find any random like real estate agent. Also, aside from that, the housing that's available that you can opt to move into off base has to be approved by the base as well. So it's not like, hey, I found like this beautiful home on like Zillow's that I love that I want to move to. If the base hasn't approved that landlord in that house, like that's not an option. There is a portal, and I'll link it below, that you can go to look at the houses that are available and kind of use that to help guide your house search. But I will say that's not necessarily how things work. I'm not gonna sit here and say that if you find a house on that portal that like you'll be able to go to it and you know you can rent it. It's just not as squeaky clean. So you can use that portal as a point of reference, but what will end up happening is from the list of realtors, you'll contact them and schedule days and times that you would like them to show you around, and the realtors will show you homes that the military has approved, they've done inspections, and are available to be rented out. Thing I would recommend, whether you are automatically allowed to look for housing off base or whether you are going to be looking for housing a year after you've lived on base, don't out the gate commit to just one realtor. Shop around, call up a few, and work with several different ones. The way I see it is they are working with multiple different clients. They're not just working with one person. So why can't you shop around and work with different realtors? Working with different realtors, you'll start to see that maybe this realtor has a portfolio of houses that fit more of the needs that you're looking for than another realtor. So I would recommend just keep your options open when it comes to working with realtors, but know that when you're working with them, that at the end of the day, you have to make sure you are steering things and leading the conversation, and that you're not being too complacent on what they show you. So for us, we work with 2 realtors, and outside of one neighborhood that the houses were pretty much the same, they showed us totally different houses. I did get some footage during our house hunting go round, so I'm gonna share with you all now some of the places that we saw, so you kind of get an idea of what you can expect moving out here. as you all can see, a lot of the homes here are a little out of date compared to what the norms are back in the States. I have not been in any of the units or apartments on base. Let me preface that. I've not seen any of the apartments on base, so I cannot tell you what they look like because I've never been in one. I'm sure you can find some references on other channels on YouTube to kind of see what the housing situation is. Don't be surprised if you go into a lot of the homes and they are not newly renovated, remodeled, or updated. Like, I think that's just the standard, the norm here, that the homes are kind of out of date. I will say there were a few homes, 3 in particular, that we found that were relatively updated. One of them looked like a home that was off of HGTV. As you all saw, like, the home was so beautiful, but as you know, back in the States, you have to be aware of those homes that are like just super beautiful, just super updated, but this neighborhood doesn't match with how nice and updated this home is. It was literally like a pig with lipstick. That's something I would warn and recommend anyone that you have to be mindful of. You can't just fall in love with the house. You also have to be mindful of the neighborhood, because I will let you all know, not to scare anyone, but it is very common out here for homes to be broken in. Like, that is a norm here. They talk about it in area orientation, that there are a lot of break-ins that take place here in Naples, Italy. From what I have heard, no one is like harmed from the standpoint. Like, well, I did hear, my husband did tell me one of his coworkers said that somebody's house got broken into and they got their butt kicked. So, but no one's like murdered. Let's just say that. Like, I've not heard of any type of murderings or killings from break-ins, but there are a lot of break-ins, and I've even heard like weird, creepy stories where people's homes are broken into and like the people are like watching them while they break in their home. Like, they're just standing over them watching the people. So I put that out there not to scare anyone, and also not to scare myself, y'all. I'm a scaredy cat. But that is a thing here, that, you know, people break into homes. And so that's why I emphasize, you just can't fall in love with like the house and what it has to offer on the inside. You also have to think about like the neighborhood and the energy in the neighborhood and what's going on the outside. Don't be afraid to ask questions and to negotiate, or ask if the rent is negotiable, because I feel like during our house hunting process, like, we told both the realtors this is what we are willing to spend, and I felt like they showed us homes. And even after they showed us homes, like, I feel like the house hunting process in the States, you go look for homes and like, you know, like, oh, this is what they're asking for, and sometimes it may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less, but you know, they show you places that are at least under your budget. But I felt like during the house hunting process, we told them, hey, this is what we are willing to spend, and they just showed us homes. And I wasn't sure if like, oh, these homes that you're showing us, are they less than what we're willing to spend? I felt confident in the fact that they weren't showing us places that were more, because we were very firm, like, we're not spending more than this. But I wasn't sure if some of the homes that we saw were less, because I felt like, especially the apartments that we saw, I kind of was like, when you go into that website that I'm gonna link below, homes.mil, I definitely saw a couple of apartment units that were 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they were popping up for like 1,400, 1,500 euro. So for us to be out looking for apartments that were of the same makeup, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and the rent is still 1,700, I was just kind of like, really? I mean, you know, again, it's within our budget, so I'm not gonna push back on it, but it's that sense of like, were these landlords really asking for 1,700 euro and that's just what it is? Or were they potentially asking for less than 1,700 euros, but because we stated that that is what we are willing to pay, 1,700, they nixed the cheaper price and was like, oh, nope, the unit is 1,700. So again, that is just my speculation. All the homes we went and saw, the realtors were like, oh, it's 1700, it's 1700, like it's within your budget. So there is potential that although your housing allowance is set amount, that you could possibly get a unit for less than that if you word things correctly and you ask questions and you poke a little bit. That's something that we didn't do, that, you know, I'm not losing sleep over it, my husband's not losing sleep over it, but it's definitely something that if I had to go back and do it over again, I would be a little bit more tactful in how we presented our budget. Like maybe we say we were only going to spend $1,500 if we still would have ended up in the unit that we're getting now. So I would definitely recommend maybe lowballing your budget a little bit when you're dealing with realtors and see if what they show you is still within the ballpark of what you're looking for in a home. Also, something in regards going back to the realtors and the landlord situation is, and this was another reason why I said make sure you are kind of steering the conversation and steering the direction of what these realtors are showing you, because again, my speculation, not 100% sure, but it definitely, when you are out looking for houses, most times, 9 times out of 10, the landlord will be there. So first things first, the landlord will be there when you are looking for homes. As you go look for home, and because the landlords are there, you'll see the landlords and realtors conversing and having conversation. And it's almost like, from what I've observed, anytime that we were looking for homes, even with both the realtors that we use, it was almost like sometimes the realtors and the landlords were having conversations like they were BFFs, like they were cool with each other. So again, I don't have any facts to back up this, but my speculation is a lot of these realtors have close relationships with these landlords, and I think that is why they end up showing the houses that they show. They are cool, they buddy, and you just have to be mindful of that when you go out. That I just wouldn't wholeheartedly trust that your realtor has your best interest at heart 100%. I think at the end of the day, they're trying to help out themselves, because they got a business to run, and they probably also trying to help out their partners by showing these homes. So now that we have finished our house hunting process, we're in a period where once we decided our home, we went to the housing office and placed a permanent hold on the house. And that permanent hold is basically no one else can go in there and say, I want this home too. We put the permanent hold on the house, so therefore it is ours. So now we're waiting for the housing office to sign some documents with the landlord, and then we'll sign the contract, and then we'll move in. I don't know when that's gonna be. I don't. I've heard that the paperwork and the contract signing can take very, very long. There have been several people that my husband works with who got here before us that it took them weeks and months to like just finalize everything. So right now we're still in the Navy Lodge. We've asked for an extension on our lodging allowance, so whenever that day comes when we move, of course you all will know about it. I will say that when I showed you all the houses that we viewed, I did not include our home. Initially I wasn't going to include our home because I wanted to do a proper walkthrough. I wanted to share with you all our home once we moved in there, so that you can really see it. But going back to the previous point that I made about there's a lot of break-ins, I've decided I'm not going to show you all our homes, just for peace of mind and just for family safety. I just, you know, want to keep just think about if you're a 90s baby, if you're a millennial baby, you remember the show MTV Cribs, and y'all remember the episode when Mariah Carey was up there and she showed her entire home but her bedroom because she wanted to keep something to herself. That's kind of how I feel. It's like I don't want to share and overly expose our home just for my family safety, and just because, you know, I want to keep something to myself. So you all will not get a complete walkthrough of our home, but that's not to say that you won't see certain aspects of it. Of course I'm going to keep filming, of course I'm going to keep recording, and so when we have our little one-on-one talks and I'm doing things in my home, you'll see certain aspects of it. But you know, the complete walkthrough I'm gonna save that for myself and my family. So, but again, I've showed you all other homes of what you can expect, so you're not missing out too much. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and thought it was helpful, please make sure you like and subscribe. Comment below any questions you have about the house hunting process or just the housing process in general, and I will do my best to answer them. And make sure you subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss out on everything else I have coming to my channel. And when I do move into my house and you get to see little glimpses of my home, not the full walkthrough, but just little glimpses, you're not going to want to miss that. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video below.